Hello, my name is Steven Timonello, and I'm a guitar technician based out of West Los Angeles. Today I'm going to show you how I perform a setup on a typical Fender Stratocaster. Now you might have noticed right away that this is a lefty Strat. However, everything I'm going to go over applies to a right-handed Stratocaster as well. So let's dive right in. Okay, welcome to the very first of a long series. Ignore the mess on my bench here. I'm going to teach you guys how to work on your guitar. And today we're going to be doing a setup and a restring on a friend's Stratocaster. What we're going to need is a winder, and I'm going to do a lot of this by hand. I'm not going to be using this tool or anything like that. I'm going to probably do this stuff by hand because I imagine a lot of you won't have all the nice tools that I have. But I'm going to show you how to get it done. Now, first things first, this is all dusty, and I want to know what the current setup is. So knowing that this has a 9.5 radius, which is common for Stratocasters, some have a 7.25 radius, I'm going to check how these strings are currently radiused, and it's damn near perfect, minus the G is just a little high, but I set this up maybe a year ago, and yeah, it's still check. You need to fret one fret over here, find where the neck and the body meet. In this case it's fret 17, and you want to tap right in the middle. You see that little gap right there? That's relief. I'm going to do the same thing on the high E string, and tap. There's a little bit of relief there. That's fine. What's the current action at? I'm going to take our string action gauge and we're going to measure in 64ths of an inch. So now we're going to get started. First, we're going to detune all the old strings. Just loosen everything up. I guess I should make sure that this is still recording. Detune all the old strings. Just loosen everything up. I guess I should make sure that this is still recording. Hey Meta, stop recording. Okay, cool. Hey Meta, start recording. Alright, cool. I did a quick little check to make sure that the glasses were still recording. So right in this section, I thought my Meta glasses were recording, but they were not. So bear with me here. Right. Once I've gotten all my strings slacked, this isn't, So anyway, now we're going to cut the strings. I like to cut them at the headstock. It's just easier to get rid of them. Keeps everything neat. As you can see, I have my ring light over there and my phone rolling as well, because the Meta glasses can only record in about 3-minute increments. So this is going to be a lot of stop and go, but we're going to make it work. You can see there's some dust and debris over here. I'm just going to get all that shit out of the way. I like to line all these back up because that'll be easier to clean later. Brush all this off. Let's flip this guy over. Now, a lot of the time you'll encounter this. The through body holes for the float don't quite line up with this little opening, so I'm going to have to take this off. What I like to do here, because I don't want the strings to press into the finish, just run that over so nothing is actually applying any string pressure to the body. Sometimes if you set the string down or have it like this, you can leave a divot in your fret, so you don't want to do that. Let's get our screwdriver. One thing I like to do when I first started, I would just throw screws all over the place back when I was learning how to do all of this. And that's not a good thing. It can be messy and you'll find yourself having to hunt for shit later. So what I like to do is I keep everything in a roll of tape. You can use that as kind of like a little, bowl, I guess. I do have this little magnet ball over here, but that's just become a receptacle for random miscellaneous washers, nuts, springs, and stuff like that. So let's get this off here. So now that this is out, we can get that over here. And feed all the strings through. And all of this is pretty straightforward. Now a quick little trick, if you ever have a guitar where the strings are really old and like rusted over, which I've experienced quite a few times, you can take the thickest string and just feed it into the hole of any of the strings that are stuck, and that'll get them out. So now I'm going to throw away this trash and get this dust put away. I'm going to go throw this away. Hey Meta, stop recording. Strings, and now my cat, Baja Blast, my little helper, has decided to hang out with us while we get this done. So, as you can see, there's some dust. I'm just going to brush all that out. Get all of that out of the way. He likes to do this sometimes. I do have to be careful. Sometimes he'll get a little too excited, and I have to kick him off of that amplifier. Not because I don't like hanging out with him, but, you know, it can be a liability. But if he's chill and he's hanging out, he's not doing anything wrong. What's up, buddy? Give him a little scratch. See, that's why my turnaround time is slow sometimes. It's because Baja Blast needs attention. Okay, now that we've got all that done, I can see that there's not very much dust or anything. So I'm going to take a Q-tip. I'm going to reach down here for my polish. Now I could spray the Q-tip, but I'm going to waste polish by doing that, so I'm just going to dip it. And in this case, I'm just going to kind of wedge it behind here. Get around. And then with the other side, wipe everything off. And sometimes you might have to go through a couple Q-tips to do this. Now I do have another tool that also works, but I'm using a Q-tip because more than likely everyone who would be working on their guitar at home would have these, and they're effective. And I'm trying to keep this as DIY as possible. And back when Jake and I started the business, I had to do a lot of crude things to get good results as we were, you know, getting more tools and growing the business. And I came up in the DIY, so I've always had to think very creatively to solve problems. As you can see, there's still some stuff there. Just gonna get a microfiber cloth. Get in there. And we'll give this a little spritz. I kind of like to give it this little corner, and same deal, just get in there. The footage cut out. This is a 3-minute interval that I'll have to get used to. So I'll wipe off the potentiometer, clean off the knobs. You can see a bunch of little like finger grease here. And you can do this with a Q-tip as well. It's actually pretty effective. And if you're working on a Strat with white knobs, I like to use white vinegar to get that stuff out. It's really good at breaking up the gunk. White vinegar as well is good for polishing off any sort of oxidized chrome or gold hardware. But this guitar is in amazing shape, so I don't need to do any of that. Let's give this another spritz here. Same deal, I try to work with like a corner of the rag, that way I can kind of get multiple uses out of one rag. And at first, again, it's just about covering everything. I'm not really worried about wiping thoroughly just yet. I'm just worried about making sure I hit everything. Ends. This guy. Neck pocket, get around the trim of the pickguard. That tends to be where a lot of gunk accrues. Behind the bridge, see like that little area. You want to try to floss it if you can. You can even get in there with your brush. And now we're going to take the dry side. Now this is all pretty straightforward. Now it's about 11 o'clock at night, so my neighbor is gonna hate me, but I need to check if there's any sort of crackling or dust in the potentiometers. If I need to, spray it with deoxit, which would be over here. And I kind of just keep the straw taped up. So I'll just do a little tap test. So I'm not hearing any crackling, and then same deal with this guy. No snap, crackle, pop. Sometimes you'll hear this like shh kind of sound when you're turning your potentiometers, and if that is the case, you would take all the screws out you hear, and get underneath there and spray everything with some deoxit D5. And you could also spray the jack, but there's no crackling, so there's no need to do that today, but we will cover that in a different video. So let's throw that back on standby. I'll give that a second. So now we're ready to restring this one. And in all honesty, let's see, these frets aren't that bad. When it comes to a maple board, you don't need to oil anything. This is lacquered, so you can use guitar polish on the board. But what I want to do first is polish the frets. Some people like to use fret polish. I'm a steel wool guy. I just like to use steel wool. And I have this old Frine set. You can tell these are pretty worn. I've gotten a lot of use out of them. And I'll cover each fret and go over it with steel wool. So I'll show you that first, and then I'll show you my new toy, which I really like, that makes everything easier. So let's get some steel wool out of this thing. Make sure I don't need that much. Ugh. Look at that mess. Oh, we got one little strand here getting stuck. Okay, probably break this in half actually. So we're gonna ball this up nice and tight. And before I do any of this steel wool, I like to cover the pickups with tape, because the pickups are magnetic and it will magnetize the steel wool. If you have painter's tape, nice low tack tape, it's perfect for that. That way you don't get any steel wool on your pickups. It's a real bitch, or real pain in the butt to get out. Sorry if there's any kids watching. You all know profanity. So, from the first fret, working back, I like to just go over everything. I'm not applying a bunch of pressure, I'm just running back and forth. And as you can see, that starts to get a nice little shine. And over the edges, I'll apply a little bit of pressure here. Let's go through each one. Now, if the guitar is really dirty, I'll definitely be a lot more thorough. But again, this guitar is extremely clean, so I'm more so just showing you this for the sake of showing you. That 3-minute interval is going to be a bit of a headache. But luckily I got that camera rolling too. Let's get this over here. There we go. So again, I just go over every fret to make sure that I'm getting off a lot of the oxidation. And Hector, he takes really good care of his stuff. So this is not a very dirty guitar by any means. It really doesn't even look like it needs a setup, but we're gonna do one because I want to show you guys the process. I'm sure you can also tell this is a left-handed Strat, but everything I'm showing you applies to a right-handed Strat as well. And we need to show some love to the lefties. Let's get that a little more there. So you can see some oxidation there. It actually looks like a little bit of lacquer. It's not actually oxidation. With these lacquer fretboards, sometimes that stuff actually gets onto the frets themselves, which is pretty common for maple boards. And a lot of people think doing this with steel wool is kind of messy, and it is, but that's why I use a vacuum. This one here, you notice I kind of hold this a little stupid, but I'm kind of special, so. I'm gonna hold this next one. There we go. And we got this last 2 frets. Now again, you can use a fret polish, but if you were going to use a fret polish, I would probably recommend taping off the fretboard. If you're using like a rosewood fretboard, you'd probably want to tape it off and then hit it with a Dremel and polish, or you can even hand buff it with polish and a rag, but that's just so much work. Like, in my opinion, it just takes too long. This took me a few seconds, or well, maybe a minute. Seconds would be exaggerating. Now I do have a fret shield from Music Nomad as well that kind of covers the entire fretboard, and then I can just hit it all in one go with the fret shield. I guess I can show you guys that. Ignore the mess. Let's see, this is the Fender, yeah. So something like this, I can take that off of now. It's a little bent up, but you can always use something like this as well. And they do give you a little tool to kind of like strap it to the neck, but I don't ever bother even using that. I just hold it down. I gotta not swear so much. And the same deal, you just kind of go over every fret. This is a quality of life purchase. I only got these like a few months ago, and it's definitely improved my workflow. So if you're wanting to be a tech, that's kind of a big thing, is getting as many quality of life tools as possible, because you want to increase your turnaround time and make it as fast as possible. I guess decrease your turnaround time, I should say. Let's get this back in there. So that's one. And Music Nomad carries these for Fender, Gibson, Martin basses. I think they're even working on like multi-scale ones now. I mean, they're a great company, and I'm not paid to endorse them or anything. They're just really cool people, and I love their stuff. So now we've got steel wool all over the place. If I were to wipe this, it would scratch the guitar. So it's really important to get your steel wool out of the way for safety. Shake out your rag. I like to keep it away from the guitar and away from anything that could have gotten steel wool on it. And we're gonna go grab the vacuum cleaner and get this all cleaned up. We've vacuumed off the fretboard now, which you'll see in the phone footage. Let's put this away. And just as like a rule of thumb, I'll try to brush any steel wool that might not have gotten vacuumed up. Just try to brush that away from the body, because we will be wiping this down one more time. Make sure that nothing has any steel wool on it, because that is a big no-no. Okay, we can now remove our tape. And we'll throw that away later. Again, ignore my mess of a soldering station. It's a mess just like myself. So now we're going to polish the fretboard with just regular Music Nomad 1, and this is just for like grind and buildup on the actual fretboard. You can only really do this on a lacquered fretboard. You can't really do this on a rosewood fretboard or Pau Ferro or anything like that. You would be using a fretboard oil, lemon oil. I like to use F1 oil, again for Music Nomad. I would probably sound like a fucking sponsor for them. But again, I've used their stuff for a really long time, and it's the product I believe in. So I'm gonna get this over here, try to get it on both sides. And then what I'll do is turn each one out. The same deal, just kind of get in there. Now sometimes you'll see something like really gunky right here. Again, you can kind of just floss it. You can literally do one of these if you want. And just to be safe, let's flip this over. And so you can see some prints. A little bit of dirt build up, but nothing too crazy. And then again, take a dry side and wipe it down. Now, the back of the neck, I usually just kind of feel it. It feels like there's a little bit of sweat buildup there. There's a little bit of gunk right here on the back of this board. The back horn. Get all that out. Let's brush this debris away so we're not. Here we go, we're back. Same deal, we're just giving this all a wipe down. This is all pretty straightforward stuff here. But the whole point of this series is to show you guys from the very beginning. This was the first thing I learned how to do, and that's how we're gonna go about it. Because I get a lot of people who bring me their guitar because they're afraid to restring it. And I remember when I used to be afraid of restringing my guitar, my irrational fear was I'm gonna tune the guitar up, the string's gonna snap, and I'm gonna get like stabbed in the eyeball or something, you know, irrational like that. And I've had a string stab me though in the hand a few times, but you don't feel it. Alright, so now that everything is wiped off and clean, got all our stuff here. We'll be giving it another wipe down at the very end just to be safe. Let's make sure all this is good. Yeah, this is nice. Let's get in there just to be a little thorough there. One thing I like to do before I start stringing anything. Now, in Hector's case, he doesn't really use the whammy bar, but I'm going to show you what I like to do anyway. and that would be using Tune It. So Tune It is just a slotting lubricant that you want to put in the slot of each part of the nut and the saddle. Now, alternatively, you can use graphite or lead pencil, basically. And what this would do is, if you're using the whammy bar, Stratocasters notoriously go out of tune a lot when people use their tremolo. And it's because the strings get caught. When you're using the tremolo and you're pressing on the whammy, the string is moving and it'll get caught either at the nut or at the saddle. And that's why you run into tuning instability. As you can see, I use a pretty generous amount, and I'll worry about cleaning that up after the strings are on the guitar. Now let's get our Music Nomad strings, or not Music Nomad, Diodario strings. Worry about cleaning up that mess later. What I like to do is feed all 6 strings through at the same time. And at this point, I've memorized the color codes, and also my cat, again, Baja Blast, is going to want to play now. This is what he likes to do. Is feed all the strings through the bridge and get this all done in one go. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to line up each tuner with the string that is going to be passing through it. So let's get that there. And this one as well. Now, for Diodario strings, they're color coded. So the brass one is your low E, the red is your A, the black is your D, G is green, purple is your B, and silver is your high E. And the bag tells you that as well. So my weird little trick is that I put the guitar usually on my shoulder as I feed the strings through. As you can see, it's resting on my shoulder, so I'm not dropping the guitar as my cat is aggressively attacking the strings. This is his playtime. I'm multitasking right now. I'm giving him attention and I'm getting paid. So it's great. That's the goal in life. We want to be able to be as efficient as possible, right? Work smarter, not harder. I could give him attention, but then I would have to put this down. So instead, he gets to play with the strings, and he's not doing any harm. He's so cute. There we go. Feed this guy through. Sometimes, if you have an old, rusty bridge, the strings might get caught as you're trying to feed them through, but you know, just keep trying and it'll come through. There we go. So that over there, let's throw this trash. Again, this is a left-handed guitar, so we're going to be stringing everything the opposite way. Now, my rule of thumb here is that I like to feed the string through. And I learned this from my friend Mike Mizaki. He was one of the first people that kind of taught me how to properly restring a guitar. Hold on, see, this is where I'm sorry, buddy, I got to kick you off because you're going to attack this and you're going to knock the headstock over. There you go. Okay, so you feed the string through, make sure it's nice and taut. Oh, watch out, buddy. From the nut, you want to give each string X amount of slack. Now, some people think they just wind the string up. It's going to make the string feel too tight. So for me, my rule of thumb would be about half a fret back for the low E. Once I'm a half a fret back, I'm going to pin it down here. And to keep this from wrapping over itself, I just kind of bend it upward and I start winding it. And again, assuming you don't have all of the nice tools, you're just going to be doing this by hand. It takes a second, but that's okay. We got plenty of time. I got stabbed in the chest by the string now. And keep winding it up. Now we want about one solid wrap. There we go. That's about as much string as I need for the low E. Now going into the A, it's going to follow roughly the same method, but I have a little bit more distance to cover from the nut, but I still want one clean wrap. So I'm going to go a little more, maybe just like 3/4 of a fret. Yeah, go ahead and have your fun. But I don't want you to scratch this guitar, so I got to kick you off. I'm so sorry. Yeah, we do a kiss. I love you, puppy. There you go. So we're going to do this. He's going to jump back up here. He doesn't play. If he's not getting what he wants, he's going to persist. So we're going to keep winding this around. Feed that up. There we go. Keep winding it. Now this string is going to have about a wrap and a half. Actually, it needs a little more, so we could even give it less slack than that, because I think it's slipped. So let's slack it back down. I'm going to pull the string through just a little more, because I don't need that much slack. Remember, I just want right about there. So let's do this. And feed it through like that. So we're feeding this one through. And now I've got glasses on, so I don't have to worry about getting stabbed in the eye and having my nightmare come to fruition. Yeah. And we'll worry about cutting these later. And as far as making sure the string is taut, I don't really care about any of that until I've got all strings on. For any sort of fingerprints, I like to use this other little music nomad tool. I'm pretty sure it's called the Nomad tool. Just kind of get some stuff out of there. Hey, welcome back. Hold on. Let's give him a hug. He wants to play. He's like, Dad, let me play. I just want to play, but you can't. Look, he's going to come back because he's a persistent little one. So we're going to feed this next string through here. And again, we're going to feed the string through. We're going to go back. Now we're going to start going back about a whole fret. Just about a whole fret, not quite the entire thing yet. And again, pin the string down. I like to fold it up, just so I know how much string I need. And the excess will be cut. I'm going to do this all by hand because, again, I'm assuming people don't have a winder. There we go, now we get one wrap. And it's going to start kind of turning into 2 wraps. Now with the G, B, and the E, I like to give these strings a little more slack because these strings are the ones that mostly get bent. A lot of the time people just do vibrato on this other stuff, and maybe they do a bend, but a lot of the leads are done on the G, B, and the E. So now we're going to give this an entire fret of slack. Let's slip this, so feed that back through. There we go. And again, I like to pin the string down here. As you can see, it's still kind of getting caught there. And when you're doing this by hand, you will run into the string slipping like that. If you use a winder, I'll show you, it's going to be a lot quicker. But we're going to go back to doing it by hand because maybe not everybody has a winder. But after you've done a couple of these for your friends, you get a winder, or you even get this.
So right about here, my Meta glasses gave me a warning that the battery was at 15%, so I had to stop recording and charge them.
Hey Meta, start recording. Okay. Back. I had to charge my glasses. This being the first time I'm really filming with them, I can say that the battery dies pretty fast. Not only are you recording in 3-minute increments, the battery drained maybe in like 30 minutes after shooting so many 3-minute videos. So we're going to speed this up a little bit, okay? So we're going to use a winder for the rest of this, and I hope you guys understand that had it been done by hand, we'd be draining the battery quicker. So each string after the G, or after the D actually, is getting 1 full fret of slack. I'm going to slack this down a little bit. We're going to feed that under here. There we go. So now we're going to go with this last one. And the high E I always give the most slack because it's usually a string people do a lot of leads on. Same deal, 1 full fret. And you can either put it under the string tree now or after, whichever one works for you. Let's get this over here. Pin the string down. And just get it nice and taut. There we go. Now from here, I'm going to plug this into my tuner and get everything tuned up. You can also do this with a snark. If you have a snark tuner, you can do that. I just like using the strobe. Get that turned on. That's A. That's the D. B and E. Now we're going to stretch the strings. I fret it at the first fret, and between the 9th and the 12th I'm going to give it a tug. I'm pressing down over here so I'm not threading anything, and I'm going to do that with each string. Now for the non-wound strings, you want to be a little more careful with pulling on them, but ideally you still want to give them a pretty decent stretch. See how much I went out of tune there? We're going to repeat that a few times. So I'm going to stop recording here, and we're going to get through that. Hey Meta, stop recording. We've stretched these strings a couple times. We're going to do this once more. Sometimes when I'm stretching the strings too, like the high E will break on me. I've had that happen before. There we go. A couple more times. Look who's back. Oh, I want to say hi. I know, buddy. Come here. I gotta get you out of the way just because I don't want you to mess with the strings. So he's not so tempted to do that. Now we're going to cut these. We're going to get as close as possible. That way you don't accidentally poke yourself when you're trying to tune your guitar back up. Because I've also done that in the past. And a lot of people cut their strings kind of far away from the post. I like to get the string cutter right up in there. I'll throw these away in a moment. I'm still making sure that the tuning is going to hold, because the goal here is to have this not going out of tune on me every 5 seconds. So I'm give them a couple more stretches. There we go. Okay, I want to see what this has done to the truss rod now. Remember, we checked the relief earlier. So again, we can check here on the 17th fret. See a little bit of relief right there. There's that gap. I want to adjust the truss rod. I need a 9/16 Allen wrench. Lefty, loosey, righty, tighty, right? So if I'm over here going left, I'm going to loosen it, and if I'm going right, I'm going to back bow it. I'm going to show you It's a lot closer. So we're going to check again, 17th fret here, still a little bit of relief, and a little bit of relief. And earlier the action was what, about 6/64 of an inch and 5/64? Yeah. So we've probably got even just a little bit more room before we start backbowing the guitar. So let's tighten that. So that's a lot more straight. That's what we're looking for. And one rule of thumb, check the first couple of frets. You don't want any fret buzz. If you're getting fret buzz on your first couple of frets, you probably have a back bow in your neck. Let's see here. Yeah, that's good. And just for safety, give it just a little bit of a relief. Now, back to the radius. I want to check that everything is set here. And as you can see, there is a little bit of clearance right here for the G string and the D, and that's about it. So we're going to take our handy dandy Music Nomad kit, because I love Music Nomad. And these look like they're 0.50. Yeah. So we can lower this ever so slightly. So first we're going to lower the ones that were a little too high, just a hair. So we want that to still contact. We want the radius gauge to contact everything. There we go. And some people have seen some people do it this way too, which, like, in my opinion, I can't really tell if, you know, the string is clearing that way, so I like to be underneath. But this to me is a little better. See, like that, there's a bunch of clearance right here with this high E, but everything else is touching, and if I'm pulling up, there's still a little bit of room to go down on this high E. Oh. Just a little more. There we go. Now that will take the strings out of tune. So let's double check. Okay, now we want to check the harmonic and the fret. So that's a little sharp. So I'm going to move this saddle back. That's intonating the guitar. So I'm going to just a little bit here. And now it's more steady. Still a little sharp. Tune that back down to pitch, give it a stretch. There we go. And we do the same thing with every string. That one's close, but it's still a little sharp. So just move that saddle back a hair. And see, moving it just that little bit moved the string up a whole half step. Now that's pitch perfect. That means it'll be good over here, be good right there, it'll be good right there. Oh, this one's a little out of tune. Let's get that back into tune first. That one's good. Let's give this one a stretch. So it's just a hair sharp, so we're going to move this saddle back. Again, just a hair. Let's tune that down. I find myself plucking the string a lot. There we go, it's almost there. Get this in. There we go. Give it a little stretch. still just a little bit sharp. And this is kind of the process every time. Just kind of trying to refine it. Still sharp. And this screw almost looks like it's stripping a little bit. A little bit more. It's just about perfect. One more stretch. See, now it's a little more sharp. There we go. There we go, that's the sweet spot for the G string. I'm gonna go to the B, make sure it's in tune. That one's already fine. We're gonna go to this one. And that one's good too. Now, I'm not a left-handed player, so I will have to wait until Hector picks up this guitar to try it out. But in the meantime, I'm gonna clean everything up. All this lubricant, the unnecessary extra stuff, we don't need it, we just wipe it up. Same thing at the nut. You get under here with the Nomad tool. There we go. Let's get this over here. You can unplug this. Now it's about midnight when I'm finishing this, and I've actually got to wake up at about 6 in the morning to follow the stock market, and then I also have a bass coming pretty early in the morning because this guy has to commute from pretty far. Usually it's not an hour that I accept instruments, but sometimes, you know, you got to take the early bird special, as I like to say. One last thing, again, we're going to wipe the back of the neck down. In that case, it's just a matter of just giving it a wipe and making sure that it feels slick. And once again, Hector keeps his instruments in a really good shape, so this wasn't really a dirty guitar, but I'm sure one of these days I'll get a really messed up, dirty one in that will require deep cleaning, and I will show you all how to do that too. So we can start putting some of these tools back. I'm gonna flip this over and rest this lightly. Get this plate back on here. I have to just get them all seated by hand. Give it just a little twist. There we go. Same deal. Everything looks good here. Get this nice and tight. One last check, make sure everything is screwed in. There we go. back plate. Ooh, look what we noticed. That's a big no-no, we don't want that. Let's make sure this is nice and tight too, otherwise that's a strap dropper right there. There we go. And there's a little bit of debris here on the bottom. It's probably from the actual strap itself. Move the sides down. Oh, the cat's crying for attention now. He wants. So now we're just putting our tools away. So what did we need for this? We needed a string cutter. We needed a 9/16 Allen wrench, a string action gauge. You can use a winder, you can use it by hand, or you can use a power drill with a drill bit, a little nomad tool, screwdriver, radius gauge. That's it. You can use this tool, or you could technically do this with these smaller Allen wrenches too. Now, I'm tired, so I'm gonna clean up my bench first thing in the morning before my next client. But right now, your boy's gotta go to bed. So yeah, until next time, go for it. Hell yeah. Sick.
Phenomenal work as always, man.
Thank you, bro. Sick. I'm glad you like it. Hey, Meta, stop recording.